basically, I busted out the Shure MV7. This is the original Shure MV7. This isn't like the Shure MV7 Plus or the I or the whatever they've come out with. This is basically the older microphone, the first one they came out with that is a dual. It's either you can use USB or you can actually use it as an XLR microphone. It's a dynamic microphone. It's fairly quiet in nature. And so, when I first got this microphone, I struggled with the USB. You had to get really close to it, uh, and that basically created some serious plosives, which was a problem. And I basically was forced to use the XLR version, which sounded amazing, but you had to have an amplifier like a cloud lifter, or you had to go through an interface that had a built-in amplifier of some sort to increase that gain. And that was really the only way the mic was usable, unless you didn't have any air coming out of your mouth and you didn't have any plosives. So now I plugged this thing in. I did a firmware update. It's maybe been 3 years since I've really used this microphone, to be honest with you. I have used other mics. The Elgato Wave 3 is pretty much my go-to, and it's a great mic, still a great mic. That is definitely the mic that is set up in Studio A. And later, after we go through this quick rundown of all these features and the settings on this microphone to dial it in or to see what the different settings sound like through the application, I will probably move down to Studio A so that you guys can also see what that looks like, because this is Studio B. This is sort of my main office upstairs in the main part of my house, and I sometimes just want to work up here and create up here and be around everything versus in the basement. And so, even though Studio A is amazing, it's awesome, and you're going to see that. Sometimes you just want to be here too. So, all right, thanks for all of you that are here live with me. If you're catching the replay, shout out to you, Replay Squad. Put that in the comment. I always like to know who the replay warriors are. So, all right, here's what we're going to do. So, one thing that I had to do is I had to download the software, right? And so I'm actually going to do a quick tweak to this. I'm going to move this over here so that it's over there. And another thing I'm going to do is since we're live while we're recording this, I am actually going to display those comments live on the screen as well. So again, another update that StreamYard's made to the application that I actually like. I used to kind of have mixed feelings about this, but I don't mind it. I like it. It certainly makes it easy to see what's going on and all the awesome things. So, and when you're sharing your screen, I don't have to worry about those comments coming up and sort of getting in the way of things. So, all right. So basically, what this app does is, you can be in the application. Let me open it so I'm actually in it. So when you're in the app, you've got two options. One, also, this is where you update your firmware. So it's called the MOTIV Mix. It used to be called something else. If you're like me and you had this mic or maybe you just bought this mic, actually, you bought it on the used market or whatnot. It's a great microphone, but you are going to want to make sure you download the application from Shure, and you're going to be downloading the MOTIV Mix app. It used to just be a basic app that was just the settings for this microphone, because that's really all it did. Now they've come up with their version of virtual audio mixing software to compete with Elgato Wave, Link, and as well as the Rode, has a companion software as well, where you basically don't have to have a piece of hardware like a Rodecaster or a Go XLR. You can do virtual audio mixing on your computer through software. So this was Shure's response to that, right? They've developed their own. It's called MOTIV Mix. What's nice though is when you have this microphone and you go to download the software, you can choose to do the MOTIV Mix simple version, which is what you see on screen, versus the full virtual audio mixing software that allows you to create these mixes and levels for different sounds and stuff on your system. We aren't going into any of that because that's not what this is about, nor do I want to use it. It is, if you're a Shure lover and that's the family of products you love and that's what you want to use, go for it. Personally, I did play around with it a little bit. I found it to be inferior to the Elgato Wavelink software. So that's just my opinion, of course, but take it for what it's worth. Okay, so basically what we're looking at is that simplified version. So you're going to have auto level and manual levels. Auto level is what we're set to right now. I actually have it set where the mic position is near. It's natural. This is the default. This is what, if you close the application and you reopen it, this is essentially where you're going to be. So monitor mix is the difference when you have headphones plugged in to the microphone. You're going to hear the your microphone and versus the computer levels, and it's kind of, that's what that is. 50% is fine. I'm not doing that. I'm not listening to myself live. So auto levels, and then there's manual. And when I click manual, it might adjust the sound automatically as I'm talking. But I'm going to show you this window, and then we're going to come back to auto level, and we're going to start to go through all of these different setting scenarios so that we can listen. Because my goal is this: I'm going to go back and watch this, and I'm going to listen to the stream, and I'm going to essentially determine what is the appropriate, settings mix for how I want everything to sound. I think I know based on what I've done already, played around with it a little bit yesterday, but I thought I need to go through, and I was going to just record myself in OBS. And so what I decided to do, I was like, why don't I just do it live? Because recording in OBS is not necessarily how it's going to sound in a live stream, just because of the encoding and things that happen in the browser because I'm using StreamYard. So I thought I need to do it live, and I don't have to do it as an unlisted live. Why don't I just go live and just do it? And then people can hear all the different sounds too. So hopefully this is helpful for you as well. So manual, this is how manual looks. This is the window. These are the default settings in the manual mode. So actually, I feel like, I don't know if these are the default settings or not, but it's what we're showing right now. But so you may have already noticed a difference. I'm going to guess that it got a little quieter, possibly. Maybe it actually got louder. But again, we're going to go back to that. So you have more options in manual mode, a little bit more control. I don't know that I even really want this particular setup. So again, we're going to go through all of these. So let's get started with that right now. All right, so in auto levels, all right, monitor mix. So we've got 50%. We're going to leave that there. We are going to go from near to far. And I would love you guys in the live comments to kind of let me know, give me some feedback about what you think. Your comments will show up on screen. I just kind of want to know, how you guys feel this sounds. So near really is designed for me to be like 3 to 5 inches from the microphone. Far is essentially designed for further, like 6 inches to 8 or 9 inches away. I am definitely only about 3 inches away from the microphone. However, I still feel like this mic is a quiet microphone, but we're going to do this. I'm going to keep it near, and then I'm going to go to far. And you guys tell me if all of a sudden I sound too loud. Now, one thing too, I'm going to scooch this back. One thing too that's actually pretty important about the Shure MV7 is that the recording is coming from the top of the microphone. And so it is extremely directional. I have noticed in the past, like if I come off to the side, you hear quite a difference in the actual level of my voice versus some other microphones has a little bit more of a range. This is pretty narrow. So some people like to talk into the side of a microphone. As long as you're really, really close, the whole point of talking in through the side like that is to avoid the plosives. That's actually how I used to use this microphone, is I would kind of have it off to the side and I kind of talked past it so that the air went past the recording part of the mic so that those plosives didn't come through. I don't think the plosives are as bad as they used to be. So maybe even in the software, they've been able to kind of dial that in. So Lawrence with Park Brothers says, seemed like a big difference switching from near to far. Yeah. So I am curious. Again, I'm going to actually put the microphone. It's about, a full hand, whatever that is. That's like a thing you do. It's probably about 5 or 6 inches away. So we'll keep it there for now, just to kind of see how we feel about it. All right. So we're going to go from these different tones. Now, these tones are essentially a package of settings, in my opinion. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not an audio engineer, by the way, which is why things like this are perfect for me. So I am not going to necessarily explain things in the most technical way possible. But here's the deal. My guess is if you're an audio engineer, you're probably not going to be using something like this to dial in your voice and your audio anyway. So anyway, this is for us high level folks. Okay, so dark is actually going to pull in more of the bass. It should actually, I like to say that I feel like this sounds a little bit more like close and cozy. I have a bit of a voice that booms and carries. I have those lower tones in my voice. I actually think that this sounds better for me. Um, I don't wanna sound like I don't know, I don't even know what the word is. It's almost like sometimes when you get into those bright and you'll hear it. So we're gonna go from dark, we're gonna go all the way to bright. I think that when bright is on, I sound almost like it's like it like creates my voice, makes it sound younger. I don't know how to I don't even know why I think that, but like maybe it's because I literally am like, oh, I sound like the younger version of myself. Whatever that means. But I just feel like when I go to bright, it's a little too much. There's not enough of that like warmth and that bear hug in there. And if you've ever gotten hugged by me, I'm a hugger. Like I give a big, strong hug. So anyway, then there's of course natural again. So yesterday we were kind of going back and forth with dark and natural. So you tell me what you think sounds the best. I personally went back and listened. I still feel like dark is my favorite. I just think it matches okay. It's again, a lot of it is personal preference. The other thing too is it depends on where you're listening. On a phone, the small speakers on your phone, it's going to sound very different than if you're watching me on your high def screen, high def TV with your sound bar, or you're in your car, or you maybe are on a walk and you have in some headphones. Yesterday, Tish, who just joined us with the Artist Haven, she had her bass boost on her speakers, and she's like, "You sound really bassy." Then she turned that off, and she was like, "Oh, it sounds totally different now." So it's kind of one of those things. But that's actually hilarious. Helium. Yeah, I don't really think that the bright is for me. It works for some people and it works great. So again, it all depends on your unique voice pattern and kind of what you're wanting to hear. So, all right. Oh, was having this problem yesterday. I have to keep going back to my like tray to get the app to open back up. So let me get that back open. There we go. All right. So if we go so we're in far and we go back to near. Again, I have the microphone still about 5 or 6 inches away. So, do I get too quiet? Now, here's the other thing. While you're watching me live, it might or you stay in this environment, you might think it sounds fine, but then when you go from this video to another video, that's the telling difference. And so sometimes I will go in and out of other videos while I'm trying to listen to a playback of my own stuff to see where it falls. Because that's just a gauge for me. Because when you're watching it, you can adjust the volume and it might sound fine to you. But then when you leave the video and you go to another one, and all of a sudden the other videos are super loud, well, that's because the video you were just watching was quiet and you maybe adjusted the volume. So even though we can adjust volume, we want to still achieve that balance, right? That medium level so that you're not blasting people out, but at the same time, you're not too quiet. So, yeah. So what do you guys think about the near sound level in regards to that? I'm actually going to go back to far because I still feel like this microphone does need more that boost. It needs that gain, and that's what this is doing. So the near and far, the only difference here is that near has less gain in the software, and far has more gain in the software. So that's that. Now, LEDs, all that is just whether or not you want the lights to show up or not. If you look at the microphone, if I turn those off, those will just stay frozen. Basically, that's a meter. Uh, I personally think that is probably should stay off in a way because it's probably more distracting, um, because it's not doing me any good. I can't even see the meter. I mean, I'm not looking at it. I literally cannot see it. So if I could see it, it means the position of the mic is wrong. So another thing. And then night mode just dims the lights a little bit. So when you have it on, it makes them a little bit more dim. So there you go. Okay, so at this point, I could decide this is where I want to be. I'm done, and I can lock the microphone at this point. What that's going to do is when I close the software, restart my computer, it actually should lock those settings in. What I'm not 100% sure of is where those settings are saved. Are they saved in the mic? Are they saved on the computer? That I'm not 100% sure of. I didn't look that up. But it is something that would be interesting, meaning if I lock those settings and then I take this microphone and I plug it into a different computer, is it going to bring those settings over or is it going to require the application again? I don't know for sure. Certainly it's an interesting question to be asked. Okay, so let's unlock it. And okay, cool. Neil, thank you for chiming in. Neil says they are saved on the mic so you can take it with you. I have thought this because I was watching a video the other day, and they were talking about the app, and he had his mic locked, and he said, "Let me unlock it." And he mentioned something that made me feel like that the settings were saved in the mic, because you don't have the app always running and whatever. So, and that would make sense. That makes the most logical sense from a design standpoint and an engineering standpoint. Thank you for chiming in. Really appreciate that. That's very, very helpful, Neil. Appreciate it. All right. Now let's go over to manual. So we're going to step over to manual. And as soon as I click manual, you're going to hear a quick, it's going to change because it's going to automatically go to whatever those manual settings are. Now, pay attention here. This is something that's interesting. Right now, we are set to far and dark, and we have live meters off, night mode is on. When we go to manual and we come back to auto, I don't know that those are necessarily gonna be the settings that are automatically set in auto. That's not the auto, right? So let's do manual, and then let's just look at that while it's fresh, right? So let's go back to auto. Now you hear that it adjusted things because it's applying all of these settings now. Now our live meters stayed off, our night mode stayed on. That's pretty much obvious that would do that. Go back to auto level, and look, now the position is near, and we are at natural. So it did go back to some default settings there when it comes to that. So let's just go back into manual. So manual settings are a little different. So we've got the gain that we can actually control. It is set to 30 right now, so plus 30 dB. We can obviously change it. We can go up higher. So the maximum you can go right now is 36. So this is the maximum gain in the manual mode. So what I really am curious about is how does this sound in comparison to the far mode over in auto? So I actually want to go really quickly back to that. So we are in manual at 36 plus 36 dB. Now let's go to auto and go to the far mode, which should be pulling up higher dB. Okay, so this is the auto level of far and in the dark tone. So again, as I watch this replay, as those of you watching live, you will immediately hear a difference. And I'm curious how different it is. Or maybe it's not different. Because again, I don't know what dB gain is being applied necessarily to the far mode. When I was playing with this yesterday, I felt like the far mode had more gain than the manual maximum gain. So I don't know. We'll see how it sounds. All right, we're back over to manual. It did retain the 36 dB, if we notice that. So that is interesting. So the manual mode did retain at plus 36. All right, so let's go into, I'm pretty sure it needs to be plus 36. If you all tell me I'm way too loud, then you let me know. So Tish is chiming in. She says, to me, the dark is slightly louder and a bit more bassy. Yes, it's definitely going to be bassier because this is currently all set to flat. This is where my lack of audio engineering is going to show up for y'all. Okay. I am not great with these different EQs. I have played with them over in my Wavelink application in Studio A. I have a very significant curve look. It doesn't look like any of these. I can tell you that. So the curve for me is higher in the front side versus this is the only, we start out low and then it gets higher in the present side later. So for me, none of these match what my EQ looks like over in my Wavelink application. So, but then these are the four choices we get. So you get flat, which is no EQ applied. And then we have high pass, which is a filter. It's the high pass filter. And then we have the presence boost. And then we have the high pass and presence boost. So again, if I were doing this the real way I should be doing it, I would be repeating the same phrase over each of these settings. And I don't have a phrase to repeat. Yes, I guess I do. Let's just come up with one. We'll say, all right, I got it. All right, in 2026, I want you to be scrappy and not crappy. All right, in 2026, I want you to be scrappy and not crappy. All right, in 2026, I want you to be scrappy and not crappy. All right, in 2026, I want you to be scrappy and not crappy. Okay, do you know how hard it was for me to not want to change that for every single one, like to fluctuate, like, all right, in 2020, like I wanted to change it for each one to make it more interesting because that's how I am. But you have to keep it the same in order to get that true comparison. So anyways, that was interesting. Definitely curious to know again, how does that sound in the replay? What are the thoughts there with that? And if you're watching this replay, feel free to comment and keep commenting as you're watching and kind of chiming in throughout the video. Don't just, I think sometimes certain videos, it's like you want to interact throughout the video as if you're watching it live, but you don't. Like you tend to wait and then you comment or whatever. But like, feel free to just keep commenting. I don't care. Heck, it helps the algorithm, I think. So, although shares and saves are getting favored heavily right now in all the algorithms. So, like if you share a video with somebody or if you save it either for a watch later or you save it, like, on Instagram, you can save things. Those are getting heavily favored, which makes tons of sense if you really think about it. So, I love that. All right, back to it. All right, so limiter. The limiter should be a the limiter basically should keep me from peaking. So if we turn the limiter off, it's possible that I'm going to get louder. However, it's also possible that I may start to distort. So this is really critical for those of you that are live with me to help me out, because I certainly don't want to stay on distortion if I'm distorting. Because I will tell you, the other thing that's important to note, that is important for you guys to know, is that I am using StreamYard. I did do a stream yesterday. So some of you guys were hanging out with me yesterday evening, and I did not have StreamYard. So StreamYard also has mic input level control as well. And yesterday it was at 50%. Normally I don't worry about that because it I don't know, that's the level that has worked in Studio A. And so yesterday I realized, oh wait, maybe because when I watched the replay after, I was like, man, I'm pretty quiet still on that thing. So I did a little quick test earlier today and I bumped it up. So it's at like maybe a 75, 80% inside StreamYard. So we have multiple factors here. We've got the actual software for the microphone and the gain there. We have the proximity of where I am. And then, of course, we also have the recording volume coming from StreamYard that is, dictating a level there as well. So we did bump that up from yesterday. So it's possible, again, I don't know what this is going to sound like. This is the first time I've gone through all these settings. I just chose to do it while we're live here today. So Marianne said, I'm on my phone and I couldn't hear a massive difference. That doesn't surprise me because the phone speaker is less robust, right? Like the best way to hear the true differences is, of course, with headphones. Probably the worst way to hear the difference is on a phone. And so, not that that's the worst, Marianne. I'm glad that you're here, actually, by the way. So, Marianne is what time is it there right now, Marianne? So, she's from down under. But here's the deal. I really think that a lot of people they listen to videos with headphones in a lot, but then more and more people are starting to watch YouTube videos on their big screen TVs through the app. Especially as people are ditching cable, left and right, they're looking for things. Personally, I am loving some of the stuff I'm watching on YouTube right now. I am loving it. I mean, there are some amazing YouTubers that is way more talented and way more entertaining than watching National Geographic. So I'm just saying, like, there's more and more of that happening. So that's why audio has always been important, but I still think it's actually very critical. So anyway, yeah, 5 a.m. It's 5 a.m. Good morning, sister. Good morning. Make sure you get some coffee. My lordy. All right. So here's what's next. All right. What's next is we're going to turn off that limiter. So I'm curious, did this increase the volume level of me talking? Something else is I'm trying to make sure I stay fairly consistent with the inflection in my voice. So, a lot of times, we go in and out, we get excited, we get a little louder, we get a little more passionate. My ears start to get red. My nose always gets a little red when I kind of get into it. And it just one of those things. So I'm trying to keep my voice fairly level throughout this stream, but I am very interested to hear from you guys. What did the limiter just do? Did it do anything? And I am not going to test screaming into the microphone and things like that. The limiter should prevent the distortion from happening when I scream into the microphone. I think that this is something that the Elgato Wave 3 came out with, the Wave 1 and Wave 3, and it works so well. And then, of course, now the new Elgato Wave 3 M2K or MK2 or whatever, you watch these videos of people screaming at the top of their lungs in the microphone and there's no distortion. It's pretty fascinating what they can do with these things. This is the Shure version of it. So I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just curious if like what it did with the actual level, the recording level, if it changed it. So Marion says, that's what I was going to say. Where are your audience? Where are your audiences watching you? And yeah, more and more watch TV. She's right. So, if you got to know what you're doing and where your audience is in order to make sure you dial things in the best way appropriately for them. Tish says, I didn't notice a difference with the limiter on or off. I didn't think it was going to make a big difference. I really didn't either because I just don't think that's where we are. I'm not doing a lot. The limiter also is probably going to, the limiter might also address like it might bring in, I would think that if you turn the limiter off, it could, I don't know, it could have some varying, like outside noises could have some effects. All right, so the compressor controls the sound by raising the volume on quiet sounds and preventing sounds from exceeding a certain threshold, helps to control levels by reducing dynamic range. So another sort of version of that. I feel like I was reading something earlier. Let me pull it up because I want to make sure. Compressor mode controls dynamic range. Light or heavy compression reduces the volume difference between loud and soft. So again, I can't explain it like an audio engineer would, but to me, I'm in a pretty quiet environment. I don't think this is going to make much of a difference. I think if you're in a situation where you're tapping the desk a lot, Marianne, for example, does a lot of, she has these planners, and I just actually bumped the microphone. She has these planners. Tish is making candy while she's creating content. If you're active and you're stuff, you've got your microphone mounted to your desk and you're bumping your desk, I think this is where some of that stuff matters. And I think that would be a setting that you would want to consider. I personally don't think I need the setting because I just am simply not in that type of environment. But we have off, we have light, medium, and heavy. So you have various options with it. So this is off, this is light. This is how it sounds on the light mode. This is how it sounds on the medium mode. And of course, this is how it sounds in the heavy mode. So I probably should repeat the scrappy, not crappy thing, but hey, whatever, right? So Tish says, I purposely didn't watch. I'm working on printing labels. That's actually really funny. So that's another thing is when you are doing audio testing, it is true. It's best to close your eyes and only listen as much as possible, which is why it's also, if you're doing a test like this on your own in your own environment, I recommend you read these settings to yourself as you were doing them. I used to do this when I did podcast recordings. I would read settings to myself, even if I was like, okay, this is at 10 dB, this is at 20 dB. Like I would be saying that out loud so that you know what it is, and then you can kind of write down what settings you think sound the best. And that's because you want to be listening blind, because you can get affected by what you see. It's just a little quick rule of thumb there. Quick rule of thumb. Why do I say things like that when it really doesn't apply necessarily? All right. So again, this is where we are in the manual mode. So we just went through all those different settings. Yes, screenshot them. That's a great tip, Tish. So I personally think manual mode, probably high pass presence boost is, I don't know, maybe presence boost alone. Maybe that sounds better. It's going to be one or the other. It's certainly not going to be the first two. So the limiter is on. I think that's probably the safest thing to always do, as long as it doesn't create weird distortion, like weird sounds. Sometimes limiters can do things to your voice. It can create ducking and do other things that you don't want to happen. But if that's the case, it means you're probably screaming into your microphone too much, or the microphone's too close, so you need to make other adjustments. I just think it's good for when you have those excited moments, or you accidentally drop your phone on your desk or something, and it's going to prevent that super loud jarring noise from affecting your audience. So these are the manual settings I would probably choose, but now we're going to go back to auto level, and I'm going to go back to what I think and I'm assuming is the best setting for me. But again, I'm curious to go back and watch this replay to know that. Now, after we do this, I am going to show everybody Studio A, because Studio B, especially if you're kind of new around here, you might be like, what in the heck? This is not the ideal background. It's just the coloring and all that stuff is really not, but it is what it is. And this is my main office. My bay window is in front of me. I can see the front of my house. I can see the front U-turn driveway. I can see if my neighbors are out. I mean, this is a peaceful place. There's a big TV where I love to watch content. There's a chair that I like to sit down and kind of think and read and drink my coffee in. This is my space. This is where I work. And I sometimes don't want to leave this space when I have these moments of inspiration. Like yesterday, I did this kind of longer stream and I talked about my content strategy. I showed you guys my post-it note or my post-it notes, my index cards where I write these things down as they hit me. And I don't necessarily want to have to switch spaces. And so the whole point of creating Studio B and the whole point of getting this microphone back out was to have another setup, another place to create, also to up-level meetings and whatnot. But more importantly, I just feel like the way I feel, let me go to where we want to be. All right, so we're at the auto level of far and dark. So I just feel like for me personally, I want to be able, I get moments of inspiration and they can hit at very inconvenient times. When I say inconvenient, meaning I may not be in studio mode or video ready or whatever. And I'm not one to care so much about getting ready for video. Like I don't really do anything special when I'm recording videos versus when I'm like going out and about, for a regular day. Like I'm not putting on special makeup. I'm not doing things special with my hair. I'm not putting on special clothes. I might be selective about the colors I choose and things like that because I know that the contrast with my background matters. But other than that, like yesterday when I went live, it was the most imperfect. I didn't even go look in the mirror before I decided to go live. I literally didn't. I actually didn't even think of that until after the live. I went live and I was here and I was kind of like, I thought I was going to do a bunch of different things. And we ended up just, as those of you that were there, Mel just kind of went on a little 2026 strategy tangent. And so we had the sunlight coming in through the front windows. The blinds had to get shut, halfway through the stream. And then by the end of the stream, the whole dang stream was like yellow and too warm, right? But like, that's going to happen. It doesn't matter. The stuff that came out of my mouth is what mattered. And that's kind of where I'm going with this is that I have felt such a desire lately in these weird moments or in these times to be able to create in this room. And so I needed to have this other setup and I wanted it to be frictionless and I want it to be simple and I just want to be able to just go and not overthink things like the background and whatnot. And so I've got it set up in a way now. I've dialed it in. I've got my laptop up here. It's a newer laptop. I've got a docking station so I have more ports. I think I'm there. I dialed it in today. The desk is clean. It feels good. I feel good about it. I want to be able to record in here. So this is Studio B. And it's definitely Studio B because it is a backup studio. It is inferior to Studio A. And so because we're on StreamYard, I can move down to Studio A next. So again, this is Studio B. So this is kind of like, the alternative, if you will. But next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to Studio A, resume this live. The live is not going to end. I am going to do a be right back screen. And then I'm going to go down to Studio A and I will reappear in the primary space. And you guys are going to be like, why wouldn't you create everything down there? I'll get to that. I'll talk about that when I get down there. I'll explain why. Because you're literally going to be like, this is so much better. Studio A is so much better than Studio B. Why would you even question it? I know that's what you're going to say. And I'll get to that when I get down there. So Sammy Superstar's here. What's up, my friend? All right. I'll tell you what, I'll keep the comments on the screen and I am going to get a be right back screen going here. I got to I haven't moved all of my assets into my new folder. So we're going to do it. All right, y'all, I'll be right back. See you soon. See you in a minute. Okay, so now here we are. We are actually in Studio A. So, I mean, what do you guys think? So, Studio A is, I mean, it's pretty different. It's a lot different, right? So, Tish says, yeah, we are totally in a different spot. I want to get, this is so cool what I can do. Oh my gosh, I love it. I was going to make sure I had it. There we go. Display name. Yeah. You know, this is interesting. They just changed this. I don't know if you guys also, another thing StreamYard changed is you can change the size of the text. I don't know really that I would ever use any of those huge sizes, but whatever. All right, so we're here. How does it sound? How's the mic sound? This is the Elgato Wave 3 original one. I am using some EQs in the Wavelink software. So yeah, Studio A. So Neil says, love Studio A. Yeah. So I've been working on this for a while and it's actually a pretty big space. Again, I had a video that showed the behind the scenes and it didn't process. It's I'm not sure why it didn't work, but anyway, I'll have to just do a studio tour. I'll have to do a studio tour of Studio A and Studio B here pretty soon and do another video. So maybe I'll make it a short. That's actually probably what I'll do is I'll make it a short so you guys can see it. But it's a very big space. So there's a lot of room behind my desk. And then the desk is literally like in the middle of the room. And then there's quite a bit of depth behind me. Just have some stuff back there. I've painted these walls a matte gray, and again, I've got my Elgato key light and everything else. So you might, again, to answer the question, well, why on earth wouldn't you just stream in Studio A and create content in Studio A and all the things? I probably am louder, Tish, down here because I actually think the audio levels are better. And if you listen to this audio level, compared to another video, like if you pop over to somebody else's, it's probably more kosher with what it should sound like. I still feel like the Shure MV7, even with those settings, it's too much. Now, one thing I might do, I may adjust that down a tad because as I mentioned earlier, the level I had bumped up the gain in StreamYard. And so it may have been just a tad too loud. So I bumped it down a little bit to try to adjust. Beauty of StreamYard is I can jump from one space to another like that without losing the stream. It's pretty cool actually. In fact, I thought about doing it. I could have moved from the computer to the phone and walked you guys through the house down the stairs and showed you the background first and then sat down here at the studio. But yeah. So basically Studio A is awesome. I love it. I'm excited about it. I don't see myself stuck in one space though. So Sammy says I like both studios. Thank you. I'm actually really happy to hear that because I'm going to use both. They have a very different vibe, and that's the thing. Me, the way I am is I have to be in an environment that I feel good in to create good content. That has been a thing for me. If you guys have been on this journey with me for years and years, you've seen the evolution of my live streams. When I was at my condo before, I had a very small space in a shared downstairs living room. So I was limited to the angles and things. And I could not avoid doors in the background, which I know always, Luria Petrucci, one of my dear, dear friends and mentors, is she hates doors in the background, but sometimes it is what it is, right? But anyway, then I changed the angle and I was facing a different direction. So that studio looked a little different, had some different feels from it. And then when I moved into this house, great question. And when I moved into this house, I struggled. I hated the space upstairs. It's the space I had to use. This space down here was being occupied by my ex at the time for his office. And long story short, a lot of reasons kind of put things away. And then honestly, I got to a point where I wasn't really creating content anymore. And I still had this studio kind of half set up. And I got sick and tired of looking at the clutter and I packed it all up. I packed it all away, put it in toters. I mean, I'm talking like everything was unplugged. Not a single cable was plugged into a single device. Everything was completely unplugged, monitors unplugged, everything taken off of all the mounts, and it was packed away. And I'm not even really sure about, I love your guys' feedback. And Lawrence has this great question. How do you see yourself using them if you know? Yeah, I think I kind of have a general idea. And then Sammy's got chiming in too. So yeah, I'll touch base here in a sec on that. But I think that, it just took me some time, and even down here, once, I became the sole occupant with my daughter of the house, I, was like, "Oh, that space is a dream for a content creator," because it's very large. It's a very big room. The only thing I would say some people might not like is it's, got a lot of hard surface in here. We've got carpet, but it's fine. The way that these microphones, are dialed in now, it doesn't matter. You really can't tell a huge difference. So I have all these options about what to do. And it just kind of hit me finally one day. I was like, I gotta just start creating. And so if you go back a few live streams, you'll see one. I think you can see it in the preview where I'm in this spot, and it is like, actually, I might be facing a different angle, but I'm still pretty much here. And it is like bright, and it's like orangey pinky behind me because I just had like one of my lights shining on the wall, and it was when the walls were light gray, and it just was this bright, just this bright, I don't even know what to call it. We'll call it like the sunshine stream, because it was crazy. And that, I think that very night, I was like, I gotta paint these walls. And I was in the flow, and I was like, I gotta keep going. I want to get this studio going. So I painted these walls a dark matte gray so that they would, have a warmer tone. I could bounce some color off of them in a different way, not so bright and reflective. And I really like how it turned out. Is it perfect? No. There's lights up above me that I can, adjust because they're Govee, basically track lights. And so I have options. But I'm okay with this. I'm good with this for now. And so I feel I got a different desk. I'm set up, right? I have had some serious tech issues though. And so one of the things I am starting to do is I am scaling things back. I'm just trying to have less devices plugged in, whether it be equipment or whether it be stream decks and blah, blah, blah. Like if I'm not using it, it doesn't need to be plugged in. And so I'm definitely simplifying some of my setup compared to what I used to have. I still would like to have a behind the scenes camera because I really love a second angle shot when you are creating live streams. I love a second angle. It creates interest. It changes it changes things up a little bit, and I just really like it. And so I do still want to do a few things down here, but this is it. I mean, this is pretty much the content studio. And so to answer your guys' questions, and I want to, Sammy, I love this. He says both studios show different personalities of you, and that's what makes your studio is different. And I really like that. Studio AC seems more, I think he means A. Studio A seems more very live streaming and fun. Oh, maybe this one. Studio B upstairs, yes, seems more professional, but also fun and could be a good space for speaking events. So here's kind of my thought. Back to Lawrence's question earlier, where he said, how do you see yourself using them? I think that down here is where a lot of my live streams and my pre-recorded videos are going to be recorded. I think this is probably where most of that's going to happen. What's really cool, and it's hard to really see. There's a whiteboard over here on this wall. Again, I have that. I'll create if you, I will do some shorts, and because I'm gonna do Pat Flynn's 14-day challenge. One of those shorts is gonna be a quick behind the scenes of the studio A down here. So that's coming. So you'll get it. But there's a space over here for some storage down below. There's a whiteboard up here. I very much love a whiteboard. And then in the corner over there, there's my old desk, my other desk, which is actually a standing desk as well. And right now it's got some gear on it because I've been selling stuff. Like I sold my old cloud lifter, I sold my Focusrite Scarlett, the OG like podcasting interface, and then I sold my Focusrite Vocaster. I sold some games I owned. I sold some shoes that I had. Anyway, I've been selling stuff on Poshmark, including some of this gear, because I'm like, I don't want to just throw it away, and I don't want to just keep it storing here. If I'm not using it and I don't see myself using it, I want to get rid of it. So I've got like my Beacon Mix Create and things like that. My Rodecaster Streamer X, getting rid of that thing. I decided that yesterday. I don't need it. I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to be XLR, and I just don't need it. So anyway, that's what's over there. So it's like kind of like a little photography studio. And then I just saw Lawrence's comment. Um, so I think this is where I'm going to have fun. And here's the thing. So this is actually kind of awesome. Hold on. Yes, the answer is yes, but hold on a second. Like, dude, you don't even know. Like, you don't even know. Yes, that is an original. That is my original Nintendo right there. And I have all kinds of games and whatnot. And anyway, I am not going to become like Pat Flynn Pocket Monster with his Pokemon thing, but I am definitely like just starving for just fun, right? And so I do think there may be some other things that end up happening down here, like some other fun stuff. So I don't know. This is definitely the creator space. This is the maker space, the creative space. This is what's going to happen down here, right? So upstairs, to Sammy's point, that is my office. That is where I do work. That is where for the last 4 years, I worked in corporate America virtually as a virtual VP of business development. I am no longer doing that. I am no longer in that role. But I actually redid my office and I am wanting and working on getting back to entrepreneurship. And so I talked a little bit about this yesterday, but I am taking on local clients again. I'm taking on coaching clients again. Like I am getting back into the self-employment world of being a content creator, a coach, developing programs to help people with live streaming and content strategies and whatnot. And I'm doing some work for some local businesses with business consulting as well as marketing. And so that is kind of my office, right? I'm also learning and trying to learn about AI. So I'm kind of like in that. And that's where I work. So upstairs, to Sammy's point, it looks more professional. That is in the main part of my home. When you walk in my home, you walk in the front door and it's open concept and you look to your left and that is where that's the room. That is the front den / office. And so I never liked having it also be a studio because it was always just all this stuff. You all know it's stuff everywhere. And so I like it to be clean and look nice. I like the way I feel when I'm in that space when it's clean and organized, professional. And so I want it to stay that way. Yeah. So Sammy says it looks very corporate. Yes, exactly. It is. And so, but I still want to create content. And here's the thing, I have literally like practically multiple personalities, right? Because I've got the fun creator Mel, live streaming Mel, whatever. But then I love working in business. I love business. I love business strategy. I love business development. I love working with big companies. And so I actually think that there's going to be a little bit of a LinkedIn strategy that might look a little different than my YouTube strategy. And so I actually want to help companies use live video and incorporate live video in how they do regular like I want them to have more professional looking like all hands meetings because a lot of the companies that are in the space that I came from and have come from have employees all over the country. Like they have remote account managers and salespeople throughout the country. They're not all in the same office. And there are some older school style companies that feel like people need to be in the office and we don't, especially if you are out and about traveling, meeting with clients all the time. You're not, your place is not necessarily at the office every other week to show face. And so helping companies connect better through better virtual experiences is also something I'm interested in. And so I do think there's a space for that. I think that I may have a LinkedIn version of the same stuff I talk about here, but here it's just more colorful, more friendly, and more not friendly, just still friendly everywhere. But just I don't know, you get it. Like you know, we might bust out a Zelda game every once in a while while we're talking about live video and whatnot. So the point is that I just want to be able to feel my space. And if I'm feeling in the flow upstairs or downstairs, I want to be able to not have any friction or resistance. So if I'm wanting to be upstairs because my daughter is home or she's got friends over and they're hanging out in the upstairs up in her room or doing whatever in the kitchen and I just don't want to be 1,000 miles away from her, I may just want to be in Studio B and be working and creating there. Or maybe I just don't want to come all the way down in the basement because to be honest with you, I feel like I'm 1,000 miles away.
So I love it down here. It's a great space. It's freaking great. I'm so proud of it and excited about it. But I do sometimes feel like I'm 1,000 miles away. Like right now, like I'm home because my mom picked Addie up from school. And I'm literally like, I can't see outside. I can't like I won't I'll only know if she's here because I get a little 360 ping on my watch. Like I don't love that feeling sometimes. And so I want to be in proximity with the life of what's going on. And so that's why I am wanting to have Studio A and Studio B. And you know what? God knows how long in my life I'm gonna have a space that I live in where I can have Studio A and Studio B. Like, I feel very blessed. I feel very fortunate to have that right now, and God knows how long that's gonna last. So let's use it while we can, right? Sammy says, do you have matching cameras from Studio A and Studio B? Great question. So here's what's really cool. I am fortunate that I own too many cameras. So I have always had a ZV or sorry, the Sony A6100. It's the first big girl camera that I bought. I literally drove like an hour away to pick it up. It was one of the ones that Luria had recommended, the Sony A6100 with, of course, that Sigma lens, the really popular lens that I can't even think of right now, that gives you that bokeh background. That is what you're currently seeing right now. And so that's here. That's been the OG setup for a while. I also thank you, Sigma 16. Thank you, Sammy. I did also add eventually a Sony ZV-E10 because I did want to have two really awesome angles with really awesome cameras. Same lens as well. And then later, as I was doing some stuff, I was doing really well, luckily, and I went ahead and bought another Sony ZV-E10. And the purpose of that camera was to not be a live streaming camera. That was a camera I wanted to be able to take out with me, take photos, do things, create, maybe do some vlog style stuff. Ironically, I've not used that camera for that a lot because these iPhones and their abilities are insane. They are insane and so easy. And so this whole time I'm like, should I sell that camera? Should I sell the bonus camera? Should I sell the bonus camera? My ex's oldest son was using the camera for one of his college classes. So I was like letting him use it for a while. And now I'm like, what do I do with it? So to answer your question, Sammy, I'm like, I got this extra camera, might as well set it up. So I had an extra capture card, and that's what I did. I put it together, and here's what's crazy. When I started it, I had the Sigma lens on it, and then I was like, I'm just curious what the standard kit lens looks like. It doesn't look that different. Because of the space I'm in up there, it doesn't look that different. And so it's actually works just fine. So it's just the Sony ZV-E10 with the standard stock lens that comes if you just buy the kit. So the kit lens. And that's what I've got. That's what I'm using up there. So I still have my two cameras down here. One of the issues I was running into tech wise is that I was struggling with the capture cards. So I was using I think my computer and the ports and the cables, I kind of went into this yesterday, so I'm not going to today. I was having all these problems, and I think it was definitely some cable issues, not using the proper cables with the right speed, frequencies, and things like that. So anyway, again, sometimes when these things happen, you just got to strip it down and start from scratch. And so I am just using one camera for now. Eventually, I want to get back to that background shot as well. So one thing that is nice about if you have to use a dual purpose camera is to buy one of those clip systems that you mount basically you mount a base onto your tripod and you have multiple of those, and so you can mount those to different bases, and then you put a clip. You mount the clip onto your camera, and then all you do is it just like clips in, clips out, and then you can use that camera in different environments. That's super helpful. And so I have one of those clip systems that I'm using as well. So I love it. I love it, right? So Sammy said, when I was looking at the shot with the Sigma 16, it looked very nice, but it made me think if you tried a different focal length. So right now, it's the Sigma lens. The shot upstairs right now is the kit lens. So this is currently the Sigma lens. Upstairs right now, the camera is the kit lens. And I know I would like to get more blur. So I may, and I still have the Sigma lens up there, the other one because I have two. I still have that other lens up there. I may put it back on and play around with it a little bit more. Again, we're still dialing it in. So that's the whole point. Yeah, exactly. I was shocked how good it looked, Sammy, as well. Now, if you go watch yesterday's replay, especially about halfway through that stream, where all the content got good is where it all started looking yellow. It just in the evenings up there, it's gonna be a problem because of that. The color of those built-in cabinets, they are so just they're like that maple color. They're nice cabinets, they're just the wrong color, and they do not look good on camera. They do not look great. And so, unless you're like, channeling your inner 1978 corporate America look, but I don't know, maybe it's a thing, but it's fine. Again, I'm not gonna worry about it too much because again, I still think that the beauty is in the content, right? So, all right, my friends, I am going to end this one for now. I really appreciate y'all for being here today. And this was a lot of fun. We tested out the Shure MV7 and all those settings. And so if you joined in late, like Sammy, maybe you, that's what we did. We went through all the settings in the Motive app and we listened to how we recorded it. Those of you that were here live listened to it. I'm going to watch the replay, take some notes and sort of decide where that all falls. Here's the deal though, guys. I also like part of that whole microphone is I like how it looks. I like how it looks. And if I want to do some video podcasting, like I think I want to, then that might be where that happens up in that warm space. And I like the look of that mic. I like the sound of the Elgato Wave 3. I think it sounds amazing. I think the abilities of the Elgato Wave 3 are just crazy through the roof right now. I have ordered the new Elgato Wave 3, so I will also have that other microphone. I will probably end up changing the setup upstairs to one of the Elgato Wave 3s. Don't know which one, but the major difference between those two microphones, this Elgato Wave 3 and the future one, is the processing happening in the actual microphone. So the real-time ability to monitor and things like that. But I went ahead and ordered it and it's like back ordered, but still, that's the plan. So I like the look of that Shure microphone. It's just so dang quiet, right? But so here's what's crazy. So Tish, I have tried the lights in that room. If you go way back to if you go back to some streams, especially on the StreamYard channel, probably is where you'd see them when I was streaming over there. I feel like, yeah, but on this channel too, you can scroll back through the lives, you'll see them. You'll see where when I first moved in to the house, those were in the background, like kind of far away because I put my desk up against the front wall, like near the front of the room. And I had those lights kind of shining and they just looked weird. I may still, I may pull them back out and try some different stuff to your point, Tish. Because I think you're right. I think there's a possible way to make it work up there. I just haven't had time or really the energy to play with it too much. But yeah, if you go, you'll see that I used to stream with those in the background and then I flipped my desk around and made it basically changed it. And I felt so crammed where I was. I didn't love that either, but it looked way better than all that crap in the background. But anyway, so that's where we are. All right, y'all. Well, hey, we're back. I was live yesterday, live today. Thank you again for all of y'all for just being here and sticking around and chiming in and helping me out and giving me feedback and all the things. And then, yeah, so I am going to record a short video here soon. I don't know exactly. I have so many ideas about what I want these shorts to be. And so, yeah, so I am going to post a short every day for the next 14 days. That's the Pat Flynn challenge. And so I'm going to have some fun with it and it might be a little random, but that's the whole point. And eventually I think we'll be honing this content strategy in, right? So if you aren't doing that shorts challenge that Pat Flynn is doing, it starts today. I'm sure you could do a little catch up if you needed to, but go watch on his channel. He talked about it. He did a short live video. It was like 30 minutes. He's in his car and he did this same thing a while back and it was a 30-day challenge. He decided to reduce it because he said so many people struggled to get past the 2-week mark. And so I think he wants to make it a little more achievable for people to feel like they didn't fail and they did it. And so he's shortening it to 14 days. So, and I've done a 30-day live blitz before years ago, and it was hard. I mean, I'm telling you, yeah, that was tough. These are shorts, it's a little different ballgame, but 30 days is a tough stretch for daily content. A lot of y'all do it. Heck, Tommy Stiggs, who was here earlier, He does a morning show every morning at 7 a.m., which I didn't realize until I was checking his stuff out last night. So I was like, I need to get up a little earlier than normal so I can have my coffee ready and go check out one of his streams here pretty soon. But he does them every day too, and they're all pre-scheduled, so it's pretty cool. So, all right, y'all. I love you. Thank you so much again for being here. And until next time, which heck, you guys might be tomorrow. I don't know because I didn't plan this today. So here we are, but we're back. We're gonna stick with it because when you're in the flow, you gotta stay in the flow. That's what we're doing. So all right, y'all. See you later. Go be